My identity now no longer depends on the place where I'm living. And if you aren't surrounded by people who believe that and who reflect that to you, then I suggest you.
Bye-bye.
You find out real fast who your friends are when you move, and you find out real fast when you get sober. I'm in midlife, and I have an opportunity to design the rest of my life however I want.
One of the things that for me being down here, I feel like it's been so good for me to go outside of my comfort zone again and again and again. If I had just sort of stayed doing that world, I would never have pushed myself to really to be uncomfortable. You don't have to sometimes.
Midlife women do that, whether they move abroad or not. Whether
Totally.
we look in the mirror and we're like, who the fuck am I? Things that we were supposed to do, we did them. And now we're like, where the hell did I go?
It never would have occurred to me that this conversation would be morphed into a conversation about identity. And yet at the same time, it's perfect. This is the journey of midlife.
Welcome to Drinks with the Girls. Conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. I, for one, am so excited about this episode because I just like chatting with these super cool women that we have on today. And this is part 2 of our Women in Midlife Living Abroad. So if you did not catch the first one, it aired in November 2025, and it was called Leaving It All Behind, Midlife Women Who Move Abroad. So this is going to be the part 2 because the conversation was so juicy, we just had to keep it going. And I, for one, have more questions. So we're going to let everybody introduce themselves briefly, let us know what they're drinking. But I'm going to let you know because it's 9 a.m. where I am, and I'm drinking my hot black coffee in my mermaid mug.
Love it.
Before I was a chicken tender, I was a mermaid. So, Lisa, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Starbucks. Sorry, Karen Basket. I know that's like pouring salt in the moon. My apologies. Caramel latte. And I'm drinking my mason jar of water because somehow, inexplicably, my kids have disappeared with all the cups that we apparently own. So I just said, screw it. I'm going to use the mason jar. So, all right, let's go with Megan since she's on my Brady Bunch bottom left here.
So I'm Megan, and just a recap from last time, I'm living in the Caribbean on the island of Nevis, and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon here, a little after 1. So I decided today not to day drink, although that wouldn't be unheard of. And so I just have a little ginger ale, the ginger kind of as a nod to the islands, but that's.
I just love that you're like, I think for something new, I won't day drink. Like, that is the life I aspire to. Like, let's see. I will have something with an umbrella and ginger in it today. I love it. Miss Shannon.
Hi. So I am here in Italy. It's 6 o'clock at night. I left my drink in the kitchen. It's just water because I have stopped drinking coffee, and which used to be my number one beverage, but now it's just plain old water.
Hey, hydration is important. We love a hydrated bitch.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Karen B.
I am Karen B. I live in Belize. I am drinking water because it's like 86 degrees today. Super hot. And I like to filter my water and remineralize my water. So if you don't know about remineralizing, curious. It's a concept where sometimes filters will pull out too many things out of our water. And so I have this water filter that has these little rocks in the bottom that remineralize your water before you, so it filters and then adds the good stuff back. So I brought that down with me. It was like one of my main possessions that I wanted to bring down here. So
You'll have to send me that link so we can put it in the show notes.
well, I'm not sponsored by them, and nor am I affiliated in any way with them. But the name is Santiva, SANTEVA, and that's my dog Disco. And I love it. It's amazing.
That's
and
pretty cool.
You can get the filter. Yeah, it's amazing. I found it. Some woman, Live Holistic, was touting it on her Instagram channel, and I was like,
oh yeah,
bought one for myself.
Bought it on Instagram.
So today we're going to dive deeper. We're going to talk about some of the questions that we didn't get to on our first episode. And one of my first questions that I have for you women, is
Women.
I just hate ladies. You ladies. I don't know.
Ladies.
My besties. Did you ever just consider traveling more before you made the jump to actually move to another country?
Good question.
No, we did not consider traveling more. This was something that it'd been kind of like a lifelong dream for my husband to live someplace warm, in a warm climate, and not in the continental U.S. So we traveled a bit to find where we are now, but for us it was just traveling would not have satisfied. Our ultimate goal was to live someplace warm and to live someplace different. I would actually say that for me, one of the downsides of doing what we did is that we probably now travel less, because when we do travel, we tend to want to go back to visit our family, and we just don't have unlimited travel funds. So because we moved out of the U.S., I would say we now actually travel less. But no, we did not consider traveling as an option instead of moving. That helps.
That's interesting. I would love that to be a sub question for the next two, just in terms of, do you travel more or less now that you're over there? Shannon, what about you?
For me, it was not, that wasn't an option. It actually felt, I don't know, probably less expensive because I was moving to go get a job and work and start a new life. And I desperately wanted out of Seattle and the Pacific Northwest. I needed to get away from the party scene and the drinking culture and drug culture that I had found myself in. And so for me, it was like the intention to move was to start fresh and start a new life. So, yeah, I wanted out from everything that I was doing. And then traveling. So because I live right outside of Pisa. So I feel like if I just take a 20-minute train ride to Pisa, that I'm traveling, because I'm at the tower and it's still new to me. I mean, I've been here for 9 years now, and it still feels really special to go see the Leaning Tower of Pisa and to go just to these little cities. And so I don't travel nearly as much as I thought I would when I got over here. I thought that I would be going to different countries in the weekend, but that adds up real fast.
I bet.
And those like $19 flights are fake. They're not real.
Fake news.
Because you have to add luggage and it's just, you have to add luggage and check-in and a seatbelt and all of these things. And so all of a sudden your $19 flight is $150. And then you have to book, where you're going to stay and food and all of that. So that got busted up real fast.
I love, though, if you guys haven't gone on Shannon's Instagram, I'll put it in the show notes. I love the documentary-ish that you did on one post when you were like, I just decided to take the day off. And you just posted pictures on everything that you did. Words are so hard. About everything that you did that day. Like, I love that. So I was getting my Italy fix vicariously. So, yeah, check out her Instagram. It's pretty cool. Miss Karen Basket.
Did I consider traveling more? Well, I had already been here to Placencia 2 times for extended stays. And I was pretty confident that this is where I wanted to be. I was really searching for more connection and community, like true community. And I didn't know that that's what I was searching for until I found it. And when I was here for 2 weeks, I stayed here and had a retreat and, really got a sense of like what it might feel like if I lived here. I had more friends and people that I knew on the street and like the produce guy and all of a sudden I had like buddies after just 2 weeks. And then I was like, that's what I want. I don't know if I'm going to need to sample any other non-community places, especially I had already lived a lot of places in the US. The places that I thought maybe I would want to explore, I had already lived in those places, New York and San Diego and LA and Arizona and Washington. And so I was like, I think I'm done with the US. And this was even before the election, but I was like, I think I'm done. But I got to say, like, I did not, and the sun, living in Seattle, like I didn't recognize how much I was needing the sun. But once I found the community here and now being here for, a year and a half, man, it's so awesome having true community. Like, and some people will say that Belize is a developing nation, but I actually kind of think they've got it right. Like, so once I experienced that, no, I didn't feel like I needed to travel anymore. And plus the universe just kind of funneled me here. Like I didn't think of traveling more. And then as far as how much do I travel now, I'm trying to establish residency here in Belize. So what that means is after you're here, after a year you can apply, but you cannot leave the country for more than 14 days until your residency is approved. So thankfully now I've had enough interviews and I'm far along enough in the process where finally now I can travel and not be penalized for it. So my 50th birthday is coming up in July. So I'm planning a trip to Panama and trying to do some things that expose me to new ways of living. So I've, been to Mexico and Guatemala is very easy to get to from here, just a couple hours drive. So I'm looking forward to now that I'm outside of those restrictions with residency that I can really, explore Brazil. And I really am excited about like Honduras is just a ferry ride away. Also, I'm single and I'm a big fan of the Latin men. So I'm real excited to put myself out there in new ways,
It all comes out. Why not, girl? And and kudos to you. I'm a July birthday, so we rock. Love it.
Yeah.
But one thing that Karen said that it also pertains to me is I had lived in a lot of cities in the U.S. and I had sort of checked out the cities that I would have wanted to live in, and I did those moves a lot. I did all those moves when I was single, and so I was kind of used to moving to a new place where I didn't really know anybody, kind of on my own. And even though my husband and I moved down here together, I mean, I think that I had had a little bit of experience with, packing it all up and trying a new place. And I also feel like I didn't, I had sort of, I spent my 20s and 30s moving around. And so I think that probably made it easier to make this jump.
And I think you bring up a good point, and that's the community piece, right? Because we've actually that's been a theme lately on the podcast for sure, is how do we find our people? How do we find our community? So maybe you guys can talk a little bit about how you found your people there, how you found a community, because I think there's lessons in that for all of us, right? You don't have to move overseas to be someone that needs a community and needs to kind of connect with people. And I think that especially at our age, I hate saying that, at our age, whatever. It's tougher, right? It's tougher to find people that you vibe with that's in that community. It's not like we're all going out partying every night, which kind of used to be the thing when we were younger, right? That just holds zero appeal. So Megan, obviously you moved down here with your husband, but how did you guys navigate that? Was it harder, easier to find community over there than it had been in the US?
Yeah, I think it was easier for us. Ours is sort of an unusual situation, but I moved to where he was, although that's where my family's from, but I didn't really have a ton of friends where we were on Long Island. My friends are kind of scattered around the US, and he had a lot of friends there, but and who were welcoming to me. But when we moved down here, everybody we met here was both of our friends. It wasn't like my friends from college or business school or his friends from the local neighborhood. It was people we met down here together, which was kind of a new thing for us. We've only been married 8 years, so it was kind of a new thing that we made these friends together. But how we met people here, it's a very big expat community. It's very easy to meet expats. They do a lot. There's a lot of networks here. So kind of right away, we were sort of scooped into things in our neighborhood. That being said, when we did move here, both of us said we don't just want to hang out with white expats the whole time we're here. Like, that's not what we didn't move to another country to just sort of recreate our life in the US someplace else. And we said we want to be more involved in the community. So we did, in the local community, not just the expat community, but we did look for things here that would allow us to get to know other people. And my husband is an artist, so he wound up getting involved with a local art gallery. And now he's on the board of the art gallery. So that's been a really interesting way for him to meet and to meet local people, but also to be promoting arts and arts education down here. For me, it's been a little harder because I work, so, and I work from home, so I'm in the house all day. So, yes, I have expat friends, but to meet more local people, actually the best way that I did it was to go to church, and which is kind of funny because in the US, I haven't been the most regular, weekly parishioner, but down here, I decided to just, okay, I'm going to go. And I've met a lot of people, and I'm very much now part of a very small local parish. And people, if I don't come, they wonder where I am. I participate. I know people's kids. I know people's husbands. I know, so it's been a way for me to start to get more involved. And so that's, so for us, it was sort of this two-pronged thing. Expats was easy. Expats just, there's a million things to do. Local takes more of a concerted effort to try to get to know local people and get involved in issues and organizations that are important to them. So it's kind of how I did it.
It's interesting to me because a lot of time, I love to travel, and I have talked about maybe wanting to do this someday, but I always feel when I travel, like you kind of other yourself as a tourist, right? Like, and I'm always like, I really don't want it to get out that I'm American. It's just like, yeah, Canadian. Especially now, I'm like, Canadian, we're going to stick with Canadian if people ask. But when you're living there in the community, right, you're meeting people where they're at rather than, blowing in for a week or 3 days or whatever. So it seems to me like you're really in a position where you are are asking to be invited into their culture rather than kind of bringing yours along for the ride, which I'm sure you do to some extent, but I don't know. I just think that's interesting.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Corachella McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. And I'm beyond excited to tell you about my membership for maxed out mamas just like me, the Empowered Parent Collective. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together.
Viewers, if you're watching this on YouTube, we just magically switched Karen and Shannon due to some technical difficulties. So, yeah, it's magic. It's fine. Voila! So, Shannon, go ahead.
Yes. I unfortunately have not found a community. I moved here on a student visa and went to school that was not meant to be. So I had a year-long student visa. And what I found out once I got here was that this school is particularly, and most of the language schools are particularly built for short-term students. So they rarely, if ever, had a year-long student. I feel like they were like, we don't really know what to do with you in terms of your curriculum. It was an awful experience, but everyone was really transient. And like 2 weeks, 4 weeks, I met this woman and she was from London and she stayed a little bit. I convinced her to stay a little bit longer, but she was here for 6 weeks, right? And so also I was one of the older people there. And so I saw all of the young kids going out and they were going out drinking or going, right? And they don't want to bring grandma with them. So I had a full-time
Excuse me,
job.
hot grandma. Thank you very much. Very hot grandma.
So once I met my boyfriend that ended up being my husband, that's now my ex-husband. And so I met him and then we just kind of went off and like he'd take me away for the weekends and so I never found people other than him to hang out with. He was back from being in Australia for 4 years, so he wasn't coming back to a big friend group. And so we just kind of hung out together. And the expats are older, they're retired, and they're super conservative, which is just shocking to me. And I don't want to hang out with any of them. And so any of the younger people, like I tried Bumble BFF. It felt like dating where like we'd hit it off and then like they would fall off and not message me. And I'm like, I don't understand what happened here. And then most recently I had a friend and we hung out and I was like, finally. And she fully ghosted me after, I don't know, we were friends for like 9 months. And I was like, was it something I said? I'm pretty sure it's something I said, but I don't fucking know. So I'm back to, but like, I don't drink. I don't like shopping. I don't have a car. I keep to myself. Like I'm an introvert. I'm very picky. I'm a Virgo. I'm autistic. So like all of these things are not in my favor. And I have just like a really peaceful life where I hang out with my cats and I go cycling and I don't have to answer to anyone. Like I hate making plans and so like I started to think about like what did my life look like when I was in Seattle? But then that's hard to compare because I was drinking and doing drugs and I was 20 something years old, right? And 30. And so I'm like, is this 46? And it's hard to make friends with locals because they all have their friends, they all have their families. I don't speak enough Italian, so I need them to at least speak a little bit of English. And so it's like not like an easy free flowing conversation because we're both struggling with the language. My friendships with my friends around the world, like I have standing Zoom calls with friends from around the world. And so I'm not lonely in that sense, but I'm like touch deprived. I don't, right? Like, I don't have someone to be like, hey, like, do you want to go do this? Like, I'm going to a heated rivalry event that I'm so excited about.
Oh, fun!
Like, heated rivalry party in Florence, but like, I'm gonna go by myself, and so I don't imagine I'll be meeting people and being like, hey, like, do you want to hang out next weekend? Or so it's just I don't know, it's a solo life, and I'm just kind of like, I guess this is the season that I'm in, and I have to make that okay, because otherwise I'll sit and cry.
Well, listeners, if you're around where Shannon is, reach out. We will manifest this for you.
I just have to say too, Shannon, like I can relate with so many things that you've said. And I moved an hour and a half away. Like I'm still in Southern California, so I didn't move across the world. But I think making friends, when you're older, 40s, 50s, is hard. Because like Lisa said, we're not going out to the bars and the clubs. And I am more discerning at this age. I put up with way less bullshit.
Oh, hell
so
yeah.
If I have a red flag about a friend, it's like, no. Oh, yeah, I just lean on, my long distance friends, the friendships that I have that aren't necessarily local, but I would love to just call up somebody and be like, hey, let's go grab a coffee. So totally. I totally get what you're saying. And I think in general, just women at our age, in midlife, I don't know, I just think friendships get trickier.
I think there's a distinction for me between community, like the people that I see in my neighborhood, and the feeling that I get around the people that I live by, that feels really good and strong for me currently. Like I have, my bestie at the produce stand, and then I see like people around the village that I connect with, and we'll say like, hey, how was that thing that happened last week? What happened with it? How's your daughter in school? Like we'll connect in a storytelling way that feels fulfilling. Do I hug them? No. Am I hella touch deprived? Super fucking yes. Because I live alone. I have a dog that I probably am way too affectionate with. I'm just like, kiss me, stay here, kiss me.
Give me a hug.
Like,
Come here.
And so
You will love me.
You will. This is your job in this house, right? Like, so I recognize that at the same time. So I'm also struggling, like what Shannon was saying, I really identified with I'm also inspired by Shannon. I've been sober from alcohol for about 6 months now, and it feels amazing. And specifically just because it makes me feel like shit, and it's a cancerous toxin. But other than that, I'm also finding that I'm favoring relationships with people who are also decentralizing alcohol. And that is very challenging to find in a resort town where it's all about, literally it brings me down to about a subset of like this many people. My pinky finger. So I decided that another lesson that I've learned from Shannon is that it's okay for me to get uncomfortable in the pursuit of what I want and in pursuit of my goals. So I recognize that I do want closer friendships. I've had many of them fall apart down here that I thought were solid before I moved down here, and they turned out not to be. And then my besties with testes, Colin and Terry, they just moved away back to Florida. They were like, they lived literally my next door neighbors. We were the ones going and having dinner and getting coffee, and then they moved back to Florida, and I was like, oh no, like I have to be vulnerable again with new people. I have to go through the test of the waters to see if you're, conservative or not, all of those things, and coming from being a DJ in a queer-centered residency in Seattle and playing literally gay club after gay club after gay club, and then coming here and there not being that kind of diversity in community is challenging. The Belize has only been its own country for about 40 years, so the machismo is thick here, y'all, right? So finding women who, whether local or expat, has not been easy for me. So I'm searching for more connections in wellness, which is why I opened my wellness studio, so that I could literally pull people, magnetize them to me out of the woodwork, and it's working slowly. I'm also trying to gear my programming of my wellness studio more towards community. So I've been doing community sound baths because I'm a sound therapist, and I've been doing community sound baths that are pay what you can, all donation based, so that my Rasta friends would feel just as comfortable as my immigrant friends, which is what we are. I'm not an expat, I'm an immigrant. And so I want to welcome them into spaces that maybe aren't as familiar. So my motivation to find new friends has become this way to sort of bring my skill set to people who've maybe never experienced it. And then maybe those people will turn into my friends. But as it sits right now, I have a very isolated life. I live at the end of a peninsula on a peninsula. So I am like, if there could be a cul-de-sac surrounded by the ocean, that's what I'm on, right? So unless you're on a boat, you're not coming to find me. So I actually have a friend visiting right now. She just flew in last night from Seattle, and we were just talking about this very thing, and that it's like, in Seattle, I considered myself to be an extrovert. I was out DJing, I was teaching dance, I was performing, I was welcoming other people's energy no matter what it was. And now I am like the finickiest cat, the like, I don't even know, like, you deserve me, like, yeah, I can't tell you how different I am now in this space and in this body and in this country than how I was. And a lot of people who didn't stay in touch with me through the transition, I've transitioned. But
if the shoe fits,
I kind of, right? I've literally shed a lot of friendships of people who maybe were in it for transactional reasons and weren't actually in it for for what we could share, but more what I could give, right? And so once I saw a lot of those, I don't know, maybe it's menopause, like, I don't know. I don't know what's what, but the end result has become this, like Shannon was saying, I think I'm in my solo season now. Even though I've been single ever since my divorce in 2018, it's been a long time, but I'm also so okay with it now that it's almost getting dangerous.
Yeah.
Where I see people walking by and I'm like, and which is not a great combo if you have a business and you're trying to bring people to you, right?
I would really like to dive into that further, because one of the questions that I had was, how moving abroad impacts, like we talked about your social journey, but like your psychological journey and your identity. There's a show on Netflix called, oh my God, something like Who You Are on Vacation. Or something like that. And basically, like, when you're on vacation, you can be whoever, like, you kind of can change personalities or whatever. So like, how did this move affect all of you? I know, Karen, you talked about it a little bit, but how does it affect your identity and who you are? And, I love how you said you're shedding, Karen, because you get to shed those parts of yourself that maybe, either don't fit anymore or didn't feel good.
I think most people who I knew in Seattle, in fact, I know this for a fact because I went back in October, they don't recognize me because I've cut out those parts of my personality because I no longer needed them. And if I had stayed in Seattle and I had stayed where I was, I would have wrapped myself in those familiar masks like a cozy coat, right? And kept it around me forever because at the time it was working. But then moving down here, recognizing how performative most of my efforts were, truly performative. And I say that not to think that all the friends that I had, all of a sudden I was being disingenuous, right? I was being genuine for myself in the time, but now moving down here and seeing what's really necessary and what's not has shifted my identity in ways that, unless you've come along on this journey with me, like my mom and my really close friends, they would probably not like to be around me as much. And I'm okay with that. Like, and again, I think that goes along with the waves of menopause. Estrogen makes us less, we give less fucks, right? And so there's that part of it. But I also think that when you decide to cut the importance of whatever that place was that you were living, you're going to upset a lot of the people who still strongly believe in the connections they have to that place, and it becomes this like, I just can't believe you. I remember when I left New York, all my friends in New York were like, what's even out there past Fifth Avenue? Like, where are you going? And I'm like, yeah, maybe you should check it out. There's a whole country. Like, it's pretty awesome. And so I found that my identity now no longer depends on the place where I'm living. It never depended on those things. But when I was living there, it felt like dance was my identity and a DJ, that was my identity. But you actually are a hell of a lot more than the things that you do and the hobbies that you keep. And if you aren't surrounded by people who believe that and who reflect that to you, then I suggest you
Bye.
Take a look around.
Totally.
and you might be alone, like me, girl, like shit.
Yep.
You might be alone, and that is the truth of it. And I think being single and childless brings its own set of circumstances, both negative and positive, right? My identity isn't relied on someone else liking my friends for them to be around. Like so it's like it shifts a lot of the choices that I'm able to make and that serve me most, which is a totally different identity than what I was living for the last 40 some odd years.
Shannon, what about you?
So I left Seattle when I was 33 and then got sober 6 months later. And so just those 6 months and then everything after, right? Like, so there was so much identity work just to quit drinking. And it was, who am I? Because my identity in Seattle was party girl, extrovert, shit show Shannon was coming to hang out. And we were going to rave and, go on a bender for a couple of days. And I had to obviously completely change my identity if I was going to have any sort of long-term recovery. And so you find out real fast who your friends are when you move, and you find out real fast when you get sober. Yeah. And you realize that you have surrounded yourself with people who were there for a season and who were not meant to go on this next journey with you. And sobriety is very lonely at times because, certainly mine was that, I had moved overseas, and then any of the fake party friends that I had made were not checking up on me, not wondering where I was, not missing me, right? And so I was really alone, white knuckling through it. And so then it was, who am I? So figuring that out for 4 years, when I was on the island, that's when I started my business. And then my identity was coach. And so I was sober and living in Grand Cayman with the turquoise water. And so like my identity kind of became that. And then it was time to move, and I moved to Italy in 2017. And then again, like, I feel like each step was just a new discovery or transition, because then all of a sudden I was a wife and I swore I would never do that again. I will literally never do that again. done. I gave it the college try and I'm done. And so then again, when I left him 3 years ago, it was like a whole brand new, like, I'm ripping everything off. And Karen, we talked about this on my podcast when you were a guest, but working with you as my client, like, helped me just like look at I'm in midlife and I have an opportunity to design the rest of my life however I want. And I'm just going to go like full scorched earth and just burn everything down. All of the things that I was told or thought, like, I'm ready to just finally fully be me. And so I feel like that's what this next season has been. Also part of menopause, which is just lovely. But but it has in so many ways, because I've just like stripped everything away. And for me, it's like, I would rather live in my cute little studio and have my little cats and have this peaceful life where I'm fully myself than be performing and be around people who don't appreciate me and who I have to censor myself with. So I get I get to be all of me. And if, the friend that just like ghosted me, like, obviously something wasn't in alignment, and like, fucking good riddance. Like, I don't want to be around people that like don't adore me as much as I adore them.
Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity.
And obviously, fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn.
I've cultivated lots of online friendships, and that's just been perfect for me. And like, I'll take them on walks, and I'll take them, like, we're on Zoom and I'll just like go for a walk with them. Or I live across the street from the beach, so I'll go to the beach and we'll watch the sunset together. So, I mean, obviously it's not the same as in person, but you do what you got to do.
Love that.
Love it. Love. Megan, what about you?
Well, it's a really interesting question, and I have to say identity is probably something I really struggle with, that I'm working on. Our buying this house down here coincided with me getting married at 49, leaving at 49, 20 years or more of working on Wall Street, and starting this new job that I do now, which is in online learning, online education, and which I went from a career, just being with people all day long in an office and meetings and trading desks and busy Wall Street life, to just me and my laptop every day. And so it's a lot, when you think of your identity and how you think of yourself, and is it your career? Is it what is it, your marital status? Is it your whether you have kids or not? There's those things that help people, or that drive people to form an identity. I feel like for the last 7 years, mine's kind of been a little amorphous. One of the things, though, that for me being down here is I've I feel like it's been so good for me. I've had to be much more reliant. I've had to go outside of my comfort zone again and again and again. And I feel like if I had just sort of stayed, in a city, in my finance job, doing that world, I would never have pushed myself to be uncomfortable. You don't have to sometimes. So, you know, in business, we used to always say, what's your elevator speech? You've got 30 seconds. How do you describe to someone? I mean, I wouldn't even know what to say anymore. Like I as career wise, I don't really have a career. I have a job. It pays the bills. And so my identity is, like I said, for me, it's sort of something I'm working it out, I think, one of the other questions that you had in there was what's maybe been a challenge, living outside the US. And for me, I mean, I really kind of gave up a career. I wanted to give that up. I didn't, that's not sort of a sacrifice. But being here is limited in terms of jobs. So, if you have an identity that's tied into your job and now your job is sort of loosey-goosey, it's a little harder sometimes. So, yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this.
I think no.
Welcome to our world.
I think this is so poignant for literally what we're talking about and who we are and where we are in life, because I feel like midlife women do that, whether they move abroad or not, whether
Totally.
they leave their job or not. Like, we look in the mirror and we're like, who the fuck am I? We get to 40s, 50s, because all these roles we've been playing, all these things, these boxes we've been checking, that things that we were supposed to do, we did them. And now we're like, where the hell did I go? And so I think, the thing that stands out for me with the three of you is your courage to make that step, to get out of your comfort zone, to be like, you know what, I'm doing this, I'm moving abroad. And it gives me goosebumps to just think of the self-discovery that you've been able to do and are still doing, because of these kind of big choices that you've made that not everybody makes. Everybody is just fine staying comfortable with their regular job and their regular partner and their regular city. And so I think the three of you are so inspiring. And I love that we are bringing your stories to our listeners, because this is what women in their 40s and 50s need to hear. They need to see other women going first. And maybe they're not going to move abroad, but maybe it's going to give them, courage to do something else. Like Karen, you said Shannon inspires you. And same, like I see this chick out here just, living her life, doing these things, vulnerably, messy. She inspires me. And so thank you all. So, I mean, we're not necessarily wrapping up quite yet, but I just want to thank you all so much for coming on here and sharing your stories, because they're fucking important.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thank you for the vulnerability. And it's so interesting to me. This podcast is just this magic elixir in so many ways, right? Because like I have my questions. So, how did you pack up? Like, what companies did you use? Like, did you know the language before? Like, do you like the food? Right? Like the frickin' Frommer's Rick Steves guide to like how you did this, right? And it's like it never would have occurred to me that this conversation would be morphed into a conversation about identity, and yet at the same time it's perfect, right? Because like Karen said, this is the journey of midlife. I don't care if you're in frickin' Italy, if you're in Fallbrook or Eugene, Oregon, right? This is the conversation that all of us have in one way or another. And I think that is kind of the question in midlife. Do you change things? Right? Life is changing. Do you change with it? Do you look at this as an opportunity to change things? Or are you fine who you are and you're just going to kind of roll with it? And there's no judgment either way. Some of us, like you guys have talked about, have had it kind of forced on us, right? Like I resonate so much with a lot of the comments that have been made about, a different season of life and and being solo in that, you know, for different reasons. I had to let go of a lot of my community when both my kids ended up being diagnosed as neurodivergent at 9 and 13, which is unusual in and of itself. I got fucking fed up with the judgment, with the just like people feeling like slapping a blue ribbon on something was like relating to me and like, you're so courageous, right? And I've talked about that on this podcast a lot. And I just decided that it wasn't my job to make these people comfortable with who I was and what I was doing. And so that changed my community real fucking fast, let me tell you. But it was okay. Like, that's what I wanted. And so, you know, I think it's this magical thinking of like, I'm going to move abroad and everything's magically going to be fine. And not that you guys dove into that, right? It's by saying, oh, it's going to fix everything. It didn't. In fact, there were more questions, right? But even in spite of that, we all are still dealing with the same questions, right? Wherever you are. So I love this.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, one thing that came up when we were all talking was, like, going back to Seattle after I had been overseas. I think it was maybe like a year or so, and, like, obviously so much had changed. And, you know, you try to keep in contact with people, and then you realize that they're like not messaging you back. Or, you know, I had someone, I was like, oh, I've been trying to message you on WhatsApp. And she's like, oh, I deleted it off my phone. And I was like, all right, fuck you too. I guess we're not friends. Like, that was literally how we were communicating. And she just like deleted the app. And I was like, noted. And, you know, going back home and like, I've got all these stories and this is my life, right? And like they were doing the same shit, like literally the same shit, right? And the longer I've been gone, like the less I have in common with any of these friends. And the cool thing about meeting other immigrants and other travelers is that the common thread between all of us was that we all did something that scared the shit out of us at some point, that we all were willing to get so uncomfortable. And it is a different breed of person who packs their whole life up and sells everything and moves to a country where they've never, like, I'd never been to the Cayman Islands before. I didn't speak Italian when I moved here. Like, that was like a whole other level of scared shitless, right? And so like, how am I going to have things in common with someone who's never left Everett, Washington, right? Like, they don't have a passport and like they've just moved around the different little burbs of Seattle. Right. And so it makes returning home really difficult, you know? And so like when I go back and it's like it's home, but it's not home. Like this is home. So when I go back to Seattle, I'm literally just there to see my family. Like, I leave the airport, I go up to Anacortes, and I stay with my family for 2 weeks. My brother and my sister-in-law and my nephew and niece. Because I don't have any. I mean, I have a couple friends, and we'll like reconnect. Like, I saw Karen when I was there the last time, right? And so, but it's not like we're in contact all the time, right? Like, it's so different. And so that's also really destabilizing, is that you move to another country and you think, oh, I'm going to try, I'm going to stay in contact with everyone. And then all of a sudden all these people start falling off. And then you try to keep this relationship going because you think you should. And you realize, like, I've outgrown this. Like, I don't have anything in common with these people anymore. And so I guess we'll just stay connected on Facebook, but that's about it.
I would love to comment on what you just said, because I think one of the things that got me here was having a circle, intuition enough, and trusting my intuition enough to know that where I was no longer working for me. But then also I was creeping into the circles of me. That's how I met Karen, that's how I met Shannon. Like, I crept into circles with women who were doing the thing that I wanted to be doing. And so then I watched Jalan, I watched Shannon, I watched women actively doing the thing that I wanted to do. So if your current circle is not inspiring you, then you might be the one to step outside and expand into a circle that does vibrate at the frequency that you're looking. And it took me, I mean, I was in coaching and circles with you guys for 3 years, I think, before I ever dreamed of making a jump. And I didn't join those circles to be like, someday I'm going to move out of the US to the sun. Like that wasn't my thing, but it went that way because that was my journey and it looks different than Shannon's or anyone else's.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my Midlife Reclamation Guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers.
I think that was the thing that then tipped the scale for me. And I was like, okay, cool. Because, and it wasn't like I was calling Shannon, like, what moving company did you use? You know, like it wasn't, I didn't do that, but I definitely needed her and someone that had done it before to say to me, hey girl, this is going to suck for a long time before it's going to get better. And you're going to be hell lonely and you're going to need to be surrounding yourself with these tools, arming yourself with these ways to reconnect with self before you connect with others. And then all of a sudden I had clicked into this tool set just by surrounding myself with badass women. So I think there was a part of that had I not trusted my intuition to know that something was off in the first place, so that I wasn't truly happy, then to take a step and be like, well, maybe I can't afford this coaching program, or maybe I can't afford this new thing that seems really far for me. And then all of a sudden, 4 years later, it's not so far. And I wanted to add one more thing, that I had seen enough people die around me, really close. My cousin, my same age, gone, car accident, out. And she had all this money saved. She wanted to have a little tiny house on a farm. She had all these dreams, children that she was going to provide for. And then all of that was taken. And then I was like, okay, got it, universe. Life is super hella short. I might not be here tomorrow. And then what? My mortgage is going to be unpaid. Like, it's like, that's going to be my legacy, is like, my condo is not paid off. Like, that is not okay. That wasn't okay with me. So I think every person gets to their breaking point. If you're listening to this and you're feeling like you're at your breaking point, like, there are other people that have come before you who have also hit said breaking point. I like participating in podcasts like this because I think it is important to speak these things out loud and to de-shame all of it. And that they can look very, very different. Like, all of us have such different manifestations of finding this level of happiness.
Well, one thing though is that, Karen said checking boxes. And, I feel like I might have checked a couple of the boxes, but I did it much later in life than most of my friends. So I had found, in terms of friendships, that I was in a very, very different place than a lot of my friends. I don't have kids, and actually none of the three of us panelists, I don't think anybody has kids. And so it is easier. I don't think it's easier, but a lot of people say, well, maybe I can't go or I can't leave because I have kids, but we didn't have that constraint. But my life now, I'm just looking at it as I am in a different chapter than before, because I did this, get married and totally change my career so much later than so many of my friends, that leaving the US was not as much of a challenge because I was already in such a different place than if like mentally in a different place than, or experientially in a different place than so many of my friends. And I had lost a couple of friends too. And so and then I had one good friend who at the same time we came down here, she moved to Greece. So I actually found that my friendships were spreading out on their own sort of organically. So, for me, I look at my kind of Wall Street life and that sort of single working girl, and I look at all the things I did in those days and living in cities and, going to sporting events and going to the opera, doing whatever, traveling, as that was a chapter or a whole section of a book. But, now this is what I'm doing. And I still am in touch with the people that are important to me. And I think some of them think this is all kind of crazy that I'm here and that and that I don't have the corporate job that I used to have. I think they probably still think I'm nuts. I'm going to see one of them tomorrow, so maybe I can say to him, "Do you think I'm nuts?" But I've turned the page. It's a different chapter now, and I'm really, I would never go back to what the old chapter was. So.
Yeah, I can't. I can't even imagine like what I do. Sometimes I do imagine what my life would look like if I still lived there. And it's like, I'm so proud of scared shitless 33-year-old Shannon, who in the midst of still, drinking and using, like pulled enough money together and enough brass ovaries to just like buy that ticket.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know what got into her, but it was something, because like I was in the hospital with what is it, like a histamine response, and my face blew up and my eyes, like I was unrecognizable. My eyes were swollen shut, and they were worried my throat was gonna swell up, so I had to get on Benadryl and Valium because I was so scared, and I still powered through it. And so just thank you, universe, because it would have been so easy to be like, oh, it's a sign, like I shouldn't go. And instead I was like, absolutely not. The universe is testing me, trying to see how bad I want this. I was so like, don't play the like what if game of what if all this is the worst thing that ever happened and the biggest mistake. It's like, what if this is the best thing that I've ever done? Like, what if this takes me on a path that is my best life? Because that's truly what happened. Is once I got sober and just like my whole life opened up. So yeah, just like incredibly grateful that all that lined up.
I love all the stories. And I want to just focus on what Megan said about, maybe your friends think you're a little nuts. Yes, let's let the people think we're a little nuts. Let's have the people be talking about us
Hell
as if
yeah.
we're nuts. Right?
I mean, I feel like you have to be a little nut to do this.
You do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if there's an answer, the question that you'd posed in was like, is there a common theme that you experience from the people that you meet? It's that there's everybody's just a little bit off, right? So then you can't expect, and that's why we're here. You know what I mean? Like, we're not here because we're completely conservative, centered, pearl wearing people. We're like, if I notice it in someone that I'm talking to at the grocery store or whatever, I just roll right along with it. Cause I'm like, I'm sure there's moments that I'm playing sound bowls on the sidewalk and doing all kinds. People are like, who is that witchy bitch down there? Right. I feel like that's the beauty of midlife, is that we now get to step into this without any repercussion. We're in our finest chapter, I think.
Yep.
Totally.
A friend of mine
had
T-shirts made, and the T-shirt said, "Nevis, we're here because we're not all there."
Yes!
Perfect.
Oh my God, I'm stealing that. We're here because we're not.
And that's what I want our listeners to walk away from this episode from. Like, right, you don't have to move to, Spain in order to like have this amazing, like, live your best life, quote unquote. But it's like, what is it for you? Each of you listening right now, like, what is this big, bold, kind of scary thing for you? And let these women inspire you that if they can make this big choice that they made, you can certainly make whatever choice it is in your own life to get you to that place where you're like, fuck yeah, this is my life, and look at me, because
And
why
maybe,
are we
like,
here? We're not
right.
here to be
And
mediocre.
yeah, redefining success for ourselves.
Right.
Like,
Totally.
my idea of success is not having as many homes as I can and then stressing myself out to manage them. Like, to me, that's not a fun thing, right?
Sounds
So it's
awful.
like, and for those who are willing to redefine success, it then inevitably will offend those who have a stringent definition of success.
Also, I want to say too that we've all done these like crazy big moves, but at one point we were doing smaller things. And so like I, left for college. So like my big thing was like I left for college and went as far away from home. I went from Southern California up to Northern California. And so that was my like big first bold move, right? And then I took a bus from Southern California to Maine to be a camp counselor for the summer. And then I realized there was one point in Seattle, like I wanted to go do things and I didn't have anybody to go do things with. And I was like, well, I don't want to not do things because I don't have anyone to do things with. But like, what a loser going to eat by myself. And I was like, nope, I got to work on this. So I took myself out to eat to dinner and felt like the biggest loser 100%. But I was like, I'm going to sit at the sushi bar and read a book and pretend like I'm in town on work. Right. Cause like, but like, right. Like you wouldn't have friends if you were like out on a job. So I had to step into things and so that was how I started getting out of my comfort zone. And that's how I started pushing myself. And then I would go on drives by myself and I would go do things solo. Like the best thing that I've ever done for myself was to learn how to be by myself and to learn how to travel solo and eat solo and go to the movies by myself. Now I go to concerts by myself and I travel to different countries by myself, right? And so it ends up leading into big things. But I know that there's so many women who played by the rules and they've never gone out to eat or they've never done things like, so like, of course they're not going to go do the big thing, but you have to really sometimes start small and like tiptoe into this lifestyle where you feel bold and brave and empowered and get ready to be wildly uncomfortable and get ready to feel stupid. But like you have to be willing to do all of those things, right? In order to have, like, if you're jealous or envious or like this, you're inspired, like you have to be willing to do all of these things in order to have this big life. Cause this it took some time, Yeah.
It's all the steps leading up to the big step. And then each brave little step you take just makes you more courageous for the next one and the next one and the next one.
Absolutely.
This has been such a fabulous conversation. I love y'all so much. This is
So
just
awesome.
been so good. And I know our listeners feel the same. I just have one final question maybe you guys can leave our listeners with is, what is the most beautifully unexpected thing? And it might be hard to just find one, but from moving abroad and making the choice that you did, just something that surprised you in a beautiful way.
I would say for me, it's the last 3 years, like this last iteration of my life of just ripping the Band-Aid off and being so fucking done with settling. And I feel like I'm more me than I have ever been. But also conversely, like I feel like I'm who 17-year-old, 18-year-old me wanted to be. Like in terms of being out and queer and in relationship with people. And like any visualization I used to do about, what your life's going to be like, it never included living with a man. And so I feel like I'm, right. And so I feel like as messy as it was and awful, that like it brought me to where I am and how I'm living my life now. And so that feels really special.
I would say something along those lines too. I remember when I was working and working at Wall Street, and we had this consultant come in, and I remember we had to do this. It wasn't really a quiz, but it was all about being resilient and resiliency. And my results came back that I basically failed. That I was like the least resilient, the least confident, like the least like so like the most insecure person, and a lot of it had to do with, as an aside, that I was really in a career that wasn't really for me, and I wasn't really comfortable with it. So it's probably that really reflected in this project that we did. And so for me, I think, being down here and, as I was saying earlier, sort of getting out of my comfort zone, I feel like it's built back my resiliency, or at least my own confidence in my resiliency. And sometimes it's just little things, like I've mastered driving on the left side of the road in a right-hand drive car, which people seem to think is a of accomplishment. But it's, every time I've done something here, every day there's even just a little thing that's different and harder or less comfortable than it would have been sort of in my old life. So for me personally, I just feel like it's given me back a lot of self-confidence that, yes, I actually am resilient, and I can try something different. I can be just not so always, worrying if I'm standing out or whatever. I can just like be. And so I think that's, for me, I had no idea when we did this that's what would happen down here. I just thought we were going to go to a pretty place in a nice climate and meet some nice people. And I never really kind of felt that it would be giving me back, something that I had maybe lost while working.
Oh, goosebumps.
Chills. Basket.
I so agree with everything that you just said. And, one of the things, being in Belize, we have a saying down here, TIB, this is Belize, right? Because you get pressed into situations that make you uncomfortable on the daily. Like, this is not just like, oh, there was this one thing. Like, it's like there's so many things that require your patience, that are difficult. And I'll say that when I was married, the man I was married to convinced me that I was not capable of handling my finances. So he took over my credit card payments. He had completely convinced me that I was bad with money, that I couldn't be trusted with it. So a lot of the stories I told myself, maybe they were told to me, but was that I couldn't handle big things. And then I remember after the divorce, I got myself out of a timeshare contract. I'd inherited this timeshare from my dad. And if you have ever tried to get out of a timeshare contract, you know that shit's fucking hard. So I thought to date that was going to be my biggest accomplishment. Was like, I was able to be resilient enough, patient enough. But now I recognize that I actually have an enormous capacity for discomfort. I have an enormous capacity for patience that you see me on the I-5 in Seattle, you driving next to me, you bet your ass I had no patience. I was the road rager you would have ever seen. But now that I live in a town where those stressors aren't present, I'm actually now dealing with stressors of survival, right? Like hurricanes are real, droughts are real, and food shortages are real. Like electricity outages go out all the time. Like that kind of stuff is discomfort at a level that hits your survivalness. But then at the end of it, I'm like, oh, wow, I started a business in a Central American developing country. And oh, wow, like I actually did that thing. And then you build confidence by doing the hardest things you never thought you'd get through. And then the next day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I am awesome. Like, and I didn't think that moving down here was going to instill a sense of confidence in that way. In fact, I thought the exact opposite. I thought, well, I don't have Amazon, I don't have Starbucks. Like, who am I without my green tea lemonade? Turns out I'm fucking a lot of things, and I have the capacity to do a lot of things. And I think that is the most surprising thing is the self realization of reliance, that like, oh my God, I am really capable. No matter who's told me how much I can take, how smart I am, how resilient I could be, your like self-discovery, I think is like, it's priceless. I don't know if I would have found it if I had stayed, like you guys were saying earlier, in the comfort zone, right? It's like, it's that discomfort that actually brought me comfort.
Oh, mic drop. Merch to come.
Merch. On a hat.
That is the perfect place to end.
Holy moly,
Listeners,
y'all.
I hope you are as inspired as I am. Like, I cannot, my cheeks hurt because I'm fucking grinning so much because these women have just dropped so many truth bombs on us today. And this is exactly why we do Drinks with the Girls, because we love talking about the things that you don't necessarily hear people talking about. You don't hear women talking about all this. And so we like to bring conversations like this into the ethers and get them in your earbuds. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Listeners, thank you for joining us today. And with that, I will say cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.